What is happening, everyone? Today we'll be breaking down one of my favorite players going into 2021, and that's Calvin Ridley. He broke out in 2020 in a big way. Let me tell you why I love this guy. When we think about Calvin Ridley, we think big play potential. I mean, the stats do not lie. This guy was first in air yards with over 2,000 air yards for the season. He had 40 deep targets, which was first, and 22 red zone targets, which was second in the NFL. And you know what those red zone targets mean? Touchdowns. And we love big plays and touchdowns in fantasy football. Now again, there is a little bit of risk with Calvin Ridley. One of the biggest concerns for me about Calvin Ridley is the quarterback situation. Do they move on from Matt Ryan? Do they try to get a guy in the draft who's a young gun? And that could impact Calvin Ridley going into 2021. But right now, looking at this team right now, I love Calvin Ridley. Julio Jones was banged up for most of the year, and Calvin Ridley really stepped in to that number one receiving role. He was targeted 9.5 times per game, and he averaged 18.6 points per game in fantasy PPR leagues, which was fourth. This guy just dominated when he was on the field. He was also very consistent compared to a lot of the other playmakers at the wide receiver position. If we look at this tiny box here, we see that he was 6 weeks as a wide receiver 1 in the NFL, and he had 12 weeks as a top 30 wide receiver. When you're looking at the wide receiver position, it's becoming deeper and deeper and deeper. You want to draft a guy in that second to third round that could give you that consistency, that could give you wide receiver 1 numbers almost every single week and not falter a lot many weeks. If we look at his consistency ranking based on Fantasy Pros website, he was third at 80%, having a quality or a great game. That means that his points per game on a week basis basically met the threshold, that top 30 wide receiver, to really call him a consistent, reliable wide receiver. Now going into 2021, the wide receiver class again is super deep. It's going to be a really good rookie class, and there's a lot of teams with true wide receiver 1 talent on their roster. Why I love Calvin Ridley again is because he's consistent, and I believe his ADP is going to be a little bit behind some of these other options, potentially in the mid to late second. To me, he is a top 3 to 5 wide receiver safely. I actually have him ranked at number 3 right now in my rankings. Let me know what you think about Calvin Ridley, and if you're going to trust his consistency and his big play potential going into 2021.